Roblox is Unbreakable. It's been around for a while now, and I have watched as people complain and complain about this game. Today I myself will head straight into the trenches to find out why it receives the criticism it gets. Now, upon spawning in, I immediately noticed that there are zero directions given to where I'm supposed to go. I mean, at least give me a marker as to where the NPC is. Come on, I spawned facing away from him. So, what about the actual tutorial? Well, I'll let you have a look because it is abysmal. It doesn't teach you anything. The tutorial basically doesn't exist, and I really don't know why it's here. It doesn't show you how to block or parry or heavy punch or stagger. And what is with the M1 screen checks? I just don't get it. They look awful. They just feel awful. Alright, so now that we've killed this loser here, we go back to Jonathan, and he welcomes us to the Joestar Mansion. Ooh, that's exciting. Finally something cool happening. Alright, so now that I've cut out most of the walking, which you will see a lot, and I'll get into that later, I want to take a second to talk about the HUD and UI itself, because I think it's pretty neat, and I don't mind its design. I appreciate it not being super cluttery and taking up a bunch of my screen. I genuinely don't have much of a problem with it. Well, except for the fact that I have no idea what the purple and pink bar are since, well, they were never explained. Yikes. Yeah. But anyways, going back to the Joestar Mansion here, we talked to Jonathan and he tells us that his father is ill, and I couldn't care less, but you know what? Sure, we gotta go to London now and get some medicine, which I will not so happily do for him. Alright, welcome to London. After doing some fast travel, we arrive at one of RiU's worst quests in the entire storyline, Phantom Blood and Golden Wind. But, well, hold up a second. How am I, and why am I already just completely dogging on it when I have no idea what I'm supposed to do? I mean, I haven't even explained what the quest is. Well, because there is nothing to do. There is nothing, and let me explain. All you do is walk around this big, nothing burger section of the map to find one NPC. You have to find Speedwagon. And you talk to him, and then you never talk to him again. You are basically Jonathan's carrier pigeon. You talk to Speedwagon, then you go back to him. It just... I don't know what to say. Like, if I wanted to play a carrier pigeon simulator, I wouldn't have logged on to RiU, but to my lack of surprise, it still happened to be exactly that. So, okay, you talk to Speedwagon, big whoop. But no, they don't tell you where he is. They don't give you any hints to where he is. They don't give you any markers on the map or on the screen. So there's no clue as to where he is in London. You just gotta walk around and find him. And it took me like 10 minutes just looking everywhere to try and find this guy. And it was... Oh wow. Yeah, no, this is riveting gameplay. I'm just blown away. This is peak, actually. This might be the game of the year. Game of the next 10 years, actually. I'm sorry, RiU. Anyhow, while looking for Speedwagon, I stumbled upon the tavern. Now, I don't really have much to talk about regarding the tavern, as it sort of just exists, and I don't really have an issue with it. I mean, it does its job, and it's there, so yeah, I don't really have anything to say against it. If anything, it's something to interact with in this big liminal space that is London. So we come back to the Speedwagon manhunt over here, and at this point it was taking me too long to find him, so I eventually just gave in and started asking for help in chat. Now, good thing was, I did find someone to help me out, which was good, but while trying to meet up with this player, I suddenly just get ganked by this Black Sabbath user, and he hits me with an extremely dragged out cutscene. I mean, just look at this. I'm stuck watching a scene basically ripped from the anime for a solid 17 seconds. And on top of that, I feel scammed because I thought this was a special cutscene for like giving standless players a stand by stabbing them with the arrow. which turned out to not be true at all. And I'm just, delusional. Speaking of arrows and disappointment, I want to talk about how arrows in RiU work, because they are very weird. Now, if you didn't know, the odds of you getting a stand from an arrow is your current level multiplied by 2. So if you are level 7, like me at this point in the game, you only have a 14% chance of getting a stand. Now, I don't get why they would do this. Was it to make it so new players had a lower chance of getting a stand to make it fit with the story better? If so, at least inform the player about how arrows work so that they don't just use an arrow and get flat out scammed. I mean, that's just common sense, right? Finally, I meet up with the guy who helped me find Speedwagon, shout out to him by the way, and I talk to him. Now, Speedwagon asks me for like $1,500 for the poison antidote, like a scummy pharmacist, but fortunately I already had more than that amount, so I didn't need to do any extra grinding or anything. But now we come to the end of the London arc, so let's summarize a bit. Well, let's see, it was just a whole bunch of walking and occasionally killing some NPCs. 10 out of 10 would walk again, honestly. We're back at the Joestar Mansion. So this time around, Jonathan tells me that Dio turned himself into a vampire and that he escaped to Win-Night slot and blah blah blah, I don't care. But most importantly, Jonathan tells me that to defeat these evil goobers, I'll have to talk to Zeppeli and get Hamon, which I do. So, with me having mastered Hamon in record time, mind you, let's go to Win-Night lot and look for some zombies. But before we get there, I just need to talk about the invisible walls because, come on, how couldn't I? I mean, it's too iconic to RiU. I mean, at this point, why even half the map be made in the first place if half of it is just going to be on the other side of the giant invisible wall that meteors, mind you, can spawn behind, denying you of meteor shards, which is insane. Alright, now arriving at Win-Night's lot, let's actually talk about RiU's Hamon while we're here. So, Hamon in RiU isn't really anything new. It's basically like the old Hamon from YBA, but even clunkier. Zoom Punch just doesn't feel good to use, and it's just really clunky. And I don't like how Scarlet Overdrive pushes you forwards. It just makes it annoying to use because if you're really close to someone or really close to an NPC, you have to sort of turn your mouse, as you can see in the footage, to actually hit them. And also, Scarlet Overdrive reminds me of something. It's like right there on my mind, but I just can't. Huh. That was pretty weird. Anyways, Bruford, the first legit boss in the storyline. Now, this being like the first boss in the game, I didn't really expect anything too insane, but Bruford is just way too similar to all the other AI. The problem stems from the fact that the NPCs in RiU sort of just gravitate towards you and then just brainlessly use their moves and M1s whenever they can. Like, they don't really have any rhythm to them or any reason as to what they're doing. They just sort of use their moves and... I was saying something there. Excuse you. Fine. I'll get back to the AI stuff later. Until then, let's talk about the ridiculously oversized map and poor quest placement. At least for where Bruford is in relation to the fast travel NPC. Because, let me just show you. Like, I'm going to show the entirety of this section of just me walking to Bruford. Alright, let's see. So, I just walk. And walk. And then there's some more walking. And some more walking. Oh, and surprise, yeah, there's more walking. Okay, I'm getting pretty tired of just saying walking, but you get the point. The map is way oversized. I mean, just look at the footage. You can see all these like big rocky hills and whatever, but like half or if not more of all of that is just either blocked off by the invis wall of doom or just completely empty. Yeah, it's just it's a problem. I don't know what else to say. After all that walking, we're back at Bruford. And this time around, some other players happened to be there, and with all of us combined, we managed to completely destroy the boss with like minimal effort. So that's that. That's a wrap. That's it. But now we arrive at the real challenge. The real reason we were told to come here in the first place. To fight Dio Brando. I want to use this section as a continuation of what I was talking about earlier about the AI being sort of brainless and lacking rhythm. I want you to really take a look at what the boss is actually doing. He just sort of walks towards me and either stands still and takes damage for free for a couple seconds, or uses a move. Now, I can see that the NPC is at least coded so that the laser eyes are used whenever you're at range and whenever the NPC has the ability to actually use it. So I'll give them that. Props to them. But otherwise, the boss just seems really brainless and isn't fun or exciting at all. You just sort of slap him around and he just happily takes it sometimes, which, if you ask me, is sort of freaky, but hey, I don't make the game. Point is, the boss doesn't really feel like a boss. It feels unrhythmic. It just feels like it uses things because it can. It doesn't feel like there's any thought, or much thought at least, behind what it's actually doing. The boss feels like just the zombies I was fighting before, but with an expanded moveset. And this problem isn't exclusive to Dio Brando. It is a core problem with basically all of the bosses. They just don't feel like bosses. With that out of the way, we have officially reached the end of Phantom Blood. And wow, was it anticlimactic. You just kill Dio and that's it? No congratulations, no thanks, no nothing? Now, unfortunately, I have had to endure RiU's Phantom Blood before, so I know what I'm supposed to do next. But your average new player won't know what to do. They'll just get lost. This is an awful way to end a storyline, as you just leave new players completely lost with nothing to work with. Anyways, I want to just move on and conclude Phantom Blood, so let's get into it. Phantom Blood is not at all a good introduction for new players. I wouldn't be surprised if half of the new players that load into RiU quit within the first like 20 minutes due to just how poorly Phantom Blood is laid out. There are so many mechanics that aren't explained and so many things that just could have been done so much better, like the quests, especially the one in London, and just general quality of life when it comes to how the map is formatted. Now, in my footage you see me cut a lot of parts when I'm traveling, and that's because it would just drag on for too long. That's how spaced out everything is. Yes, there is fast travel, but even that is implemented poorly, and you still have to walk a good amount just to, for example, get from the tutorial area to the Joestar Mansion. So, some final words. Phantom Blood needs to get upped in priority ASAP because it genuinely drives players away. Welcome to the other side of RiU, the much better side with a way more aesthetically pleasing map and more visual glamour. However, when spawning in, once again, I am completely directionless with nothing showing me how to move forward. Amazing. Now, if you noticed on the bottom of the screen, there's a little indicator next to the map icon. That's because you can actually pull up a map. which is extremely helpful. But I just wish it was more noticeable because, like, yeah, the indicator's there, but like nothing is grabbing my attention to it. It's just so small. Alright, so back to progressing. What do you do? Well, you pull up the map and you walk towards the quest marker and go and talk to Koichi. Now, speaking of Koichi, when we do get there, and we do talk to him, we get a pretty pleasant surprise, as you can see a little difficulty rating and a summary of the quest, and the UI just looks way better. So far, things are looking up for Golden Wind. This is a good start. So Koichi tells me to go get his luggage back from Giorno, and when we get there, we see Giorno just sort of aura farming, and we go and talk to him. And Giorno just wants beef. Giorno isn't too happy about us wanting to right his wrongs, so he just attacks me, and we start the first boss fight of Golden Wind. Now, I'm not gonna talk about this fight much, as it has the same problems that the previous bosses had, so I'm just gonna do this instead. Okay, that's enough of that. So we kill Giorno and we get Koichi's luggage back, and we head back to Koichi. And Koichi just, you know, thanks us for getting his stuff back and whatever, but aside from that, I want you to look on the left. You can actually come back, I assume after the storyline, and redo the missions, which is really cool. And as a bonus to all of this, you can actually see storyline quests on the map now, which is a big overall plus. Now that I had leveled up a decent amount, I decided to finally use an arrow to try and get a stand. Again, because I got scammed last time. And we got King Crimson, which I can't really complain about. It's a pretty okay stand. But what I can complain about, however, is RiU's skill trees. Now, the problem with RiU's skill trees is that you have, first of all, you have 4 separate skill trees, but only 100 points to spend. And on top of that, you need to spend points for Barrage and Heavy Punch, which should already be free, all the while keeping in mind that the actual stand moves themselves can get sort of pricey. But the worst offender is the fact that the stand skill trees have this stand mastery node that are plastered everywhere that literally do nothing. It's just bloat to make the skill tree structure work. That is so awful. You're already tight on skill points and now you're forced to like spend it on this stand mastery node that literally does nothing. Like, are they insane? On what planet is this a good idea? Like, actually, it just boggles my mind. What was the point of this? After getting Casey and complaining about skill trees, we go to Giorno, who tells us to go and obliterate Leaky Eye Luca, which we do. When we get to where Luca is, he's busy aura farming and making sure that we see his hockey-covered shovel. That'd make Mihawk jealous. And when talking to Luca, he just starts spouting some nonsense about, oh, I'm Luca, and here are the 3 golden rules of being cool, and you don't respect me, so give me your wallet, or something like that. So we kill him. I mean, hey, he was trying to rob me, so... Anyways, we get back to Giorno, and he thanks us for killing Luca and gives us his shovel. Which segues us into the next thing I want to talk about. Weapons. Now, I'm very iffy about the weapon system in RiU, as it's never explained, so it just sort of comes as a surprise to new players, and they'll feel unprepared because now they have to learn this new angle of combat, while also needing to spend more skill points, which, remember, you're already pretty tight on. So, also, weapons in RiU have weight, so the heavier the weapon, the slower you walk. Now, RiU's combat is already piss slow, so why add this extra level of, like, sluggishness? it just doesn't translate well. I also just feel like the heavy weapons will just be disliked, not used as much, due to you becoming so much slower. Like, it works in Dark Souls and whatever, just because that game is centered around the weapons. Overall, I just feel like the weapons are a very spontaneous addition, and I feel like they're cool as a concept, but don't really work in practice, and are inconsistent with the concept itself by having the system put in place not really match what I feel the original idea was. Also, before going back to the main storyline, I appreciate that there is at least a side quest to do, but unfortunately that's like the only one in Golden Wind, and I wish there was more. Alright, back to the actual storyline. We meet up with Giorno again, and he tells us to go confront Bucciarati. So we go there and we talk to him. And he just tells us that I'm a liar and that I suck and whatever, but then it just cuts to this awkward little cutscene of me pulling out Luca's eye, and I feel like it just is sort of inconsistent with the other cutscenes we've seen so far. Like the Giorno boss and the Luca one. For example, in the Luca cutscene, it cuts straight into gameplay, but this one with Bucciarati just cuts back into dialogue, when that dialogue could have instead shown up during the cutscene and then cut straight to gameplay, making it feel not as weird and awkward, and also, you know, improve the pacing of it. So, just some food for thought. After dying to Bucciarati, my genius self decided to not go back and redo the boss fight, but instead go and do Koichi's side quest, which was broken and didn't work. You're supposed to be able to, like, hold E at one of the drawers and get his passport, but it didn't show up. It wasn't there. So I had to rejoin instead, go back to the apartment housing thing or whatever this place is supposed to be, and then get the passport from there on out. After getting the passport and heading back to Koichi, I noticed this really cool detail of an airplane flying over the map, and I really wish there were more details like it. Aside from that, we talk to Koichi and he thanks us for getting his passport back, and we make our way back to Bucciarati. But on my way there, the game tells me that I'm being hunted. So, of course, I ignore it and continue towards Bucciarati, when this guy rounds the corner and starts trying to kill me. I try and, you know, fight back a bit, but then after losing a lot of HP, I simply just start running away while he almost helplessly is forced to go after me. Now, I mess with him a bit and juke him out and whatever, but I feel like this really highlights the problem with this notoriety system, because it forces an unwanted fight and just results in this like cartoon chase scene where the hunter will just chase the guy getting hunted and drag the interaction out for the entire like 7 minutes that you have to actually kill the person with the bounty on them. This just really is unfun for not only the guy chasing me right now, but for me too, since I'm just stuck running away just so that this guy doesn't kill me when I'm really underleveled. Anyways, I eventually just let him have his victory and tell him to kill me so that I could go back to progressing the storyline, because I really couldn't be bothered anymore. Moving on from that, we return to Bucciarati to get my rematch, and not gonna lie, I'm feeling pretty confident this time around. I've fought him once before and I've learned from my mistakes. I cannot imagine that this RiU boss, as I was saying, shouldn't be too much trouble. Alright, now that we're done with that, let's continue forwards. So, After beating Bucciarati, he invites us to Lebecchio and asks if we want to join his gang and that we should go talk to his bums. So we talk to Orange over here and he wants us to help with his math homework. But math is terrifying, so we'll get back to that later. In the meantime, let's talk about RiU's fast travel system, shall we? Now, in RiU, to fast travel you walk up to a fast travel NPC, or a taxi in this case. You talk to them and then you just flip through some locations and then choose whichever one you want to travel to. Now, the problem with this is that as a new player, these sort of in-the-air shots of the different locations aren't really that useful because you aren't familiar enough with the map to recognize where these places are when you're flipping through them. Unless it's like explicitly stated that a specific quest you have is at Lebecchio, for example. The two locations that are the most problematic are the funicular stations, as they are nowhere to be mentioned even on the player map you pull up, so you have no sense of where these two locations are in relation to wherever you need to go. I mean, I even get the first and second station confused very often because I forget where they are in the map. So then I just have to keep on like swapping back and forth and going to the wrong location and whatever. So what's the fix? What do the people at RiU do to fix this issue? Well, let me show you how it should work. When you talk to the taxi NPC, it should just open the map, then you just look for the taxi icon that's the closest to wherever you need to be. You then click on the taxi icon, and then you just travel there. Simple. Now, the footage shows me teleporting somewhere else, but that doesn't matter. I mean, you get the point. When the game has a player map, why not utilize it to its full capability by having it be tied to the fast travel mechanic, like other games do? I mean, just look at the footage here. The game is using the map to its advantage to make fast traveling easy and convenient. Alternatively, if you don't want to go through that hassle, you could just make it so if you hover your mouse over a taxi icon when you open the map, it would just give the name of the location the taxi is in. Alright, let's get back to the scheduled program. So we go to the prison and talk to Gluttony itself, who tells us that to gain his trust, we gotta protect his precious lighter for like 2.5 minutes without going below 40% HP. But when I actually go outside the prison, Black Sabbath, who is supposed to come out and attack me, is just broken. Like, it literally doesn't work. The quest is just straight up broken. I mean, he does show up like twice and tries to do something, but after that, it just completely stops. So I just resort to killing the NPCs nearby to stop myself from dying of boredom. I also just mess around a bit and took a picture with my new best friend. But then I got really bored and just went AFK for the remaining time, just to like wait the timer out. So after the most eventful 2 minutes and 30 seconds of my life were over, I headed back to the prison and talked to Popo again, who gives us his badge and tells us that we passed the trust test or whatever. After proving ourselves trustworthy, we head back to Lebecchio to do the hardest task in RiU yet, helping Orange with his math homework. That's right, I told you we'd be back to face the terrifying mathematics, and I got through the first 2 questions with flying colors, but I'm ashamed to say that the third one got me. I got stuck on it for a bit and then got it wrong because I forgot the order of what you're supposed to solve first in the equation. And then after that, I got really desperate and opened the calculator app on my phone just to see why it was wrong so that I could cope. Like, I'm generally not the brightest, I mean this proves it, but this is like next level of being dumb on my part. Anyways, we get through the hurdle and destroy the last question, making Orange able to pass his classes now. Then I talk to the rest of the crew, like Mista, who probably has paranoid schizophrenia, and Abacchio, who serves me piss. Then Bucciarati gives me an Amber Alert about his missing associate that we gotta go and look for now. Also, on my way to meet up with Abakio, I noticed that there's an indicator on the screen but not on the actual map. Why the inconsistency? Aside from that, we meet up with Abakio and he gives me the most baffling piece of dialogue in the entire game. He tells me to go search for him in the direction he's headed. Okay, which one? Like, what? I assume he means the Moody Blues form next to him, but like, what happens when I turn a corner? Where do I go from there? This is so vague and just poorly thought out. And on top of that, why was this even necessary? You just force new players to go play hide and seek with this mystery man because why not? Like, wouldn't it have been way better if players instead followed a trail of some kind, but the trail has other trails overlapping with it, so it becomes sort of like a puzzle to solve to find the guy? Like, literally anything else that would make this quest more interactive would be a positive because this is abysmal. So, what did I do? Well, I had no choice but to just walk around the general area until I found him. I mean, what else was I supposed to do? And finding this guy took way longer than I wish it did. Like, I walked around for a solid 3 minutes, which doesn't sound like much, but you gotta keep in mind that I was lost, bored, and had no idea if I was even close to finding the guy in the first place. I just don't understand this, right? What genius looked at the Find Speedwagon quest from Phantom Blood and liked it so much that they did it again here in Golden Wind? It just baffles me. I seriously can't understand how anyone thought that this was a great and interactive quest that would surely add to the new player experience of RiU. Anyways, we find Mr. X, who warns us about incoming enemies who get absolutely crushed, and then just sends us away again? This quest is actually unreal. Like, this has to be bait, right? There's no way. And if it is bait, well, I've bitten the hook hard, because we continue forwards and meet up with Mr. X again, who thanks me for saving his life and whatever. But more importantly, we unlock trials. Moving on with the storyline, we go to Risotto, who tells us to pick a target from the most wanted list. And what's cool about this is the higher your rank in 1v1s, the more details about your current build and whatnot gets shown. Which makes sense and is a pretty nice detail. Now, I already covered this quest. It's the quest where you hunt someone down and kill them. I was hunted earlier in the storyline and now it's my turn to ruin someone's day. So I go out and find the guy who I'm supposed to kill. And I fight him. And I lose horribly. But what's interesting is that you complete the quest even if you don't kill the guy you're targeting, which I'm happy about, because if I was forced to just redo this over and over again, it would have driven me insane. But on the other hand, now I'm sort of asking the question of why this was even necessary. Because if you wanted to explain the mechanics of the notoriety system, then why not show it on like an NPC or some form of training dummy instead of making new players go and fight people who are most likely going to be of a higher level, just to then reward them for losing and not give them the chance to succeed, which I mean just feels bad gameplay wise. But after getting rewarded with our participation trophy, we get sent to Bucciarati, who then sends us away to Mr. X. What was the point of this? Like, okay. We go to Mr. X, who gives us the Passione missions, with the first one being Sabotage. So in this mission, we gotta search a general area to go find a warehouse to then, spoiler alert, place explosives on crates. So we get to the warehouse and we are introduced to RiU's lockpicking mechanics. And let me tell you, this was one of the most tedious, frustrating things I've gone through in the entirety of this storyline. First of all, you need like pinpoint accuracy to actually lift the pins, and the fact that you need to be very observant of the pick's location when you hear the sound cue. And secondly, if you trigger the sound cue, you won't be able to hear it again until you swing the pick all the way back and then try again and listen to the audio cue again. You can even see it in the footage when I just swing the pick back and inch my way towards the sound cue. And it is just so frustrating and annoying. Like, wouldn't it be better to have some onomatopoeia or something when you cross a pin, and to make it so you don't need surgical precision to actually lift the pin? It just makes it extremely tedious and not fun in the slightest. It just makes me feel. Anyways, we move on and plant explosives on the crates, tamper with some computers, fight some goons, and then leave. So we go back to Mr. X, who sends us on our next mission, transportation, where we just follow a marker on the map and walk to some random guy to drop off the package Mr. X gave us. And that's the entire quest. Riveting, I know. We head back to Mr. X again, who gives us the last quest in the entire storyline actually, called Salvage, where we go to these various locations, find a garage, pick some locks, and steal the weapon inside. Now, I don't really have much to say about this quest. I mean, I already went over the lockpicking and how tedious and annoying it is, so there is no real point in bringing that up again. But I will say that oddly enough, I like this quest more than the last two, even if I had to pick more locks. Because I actually had to spend a bit more time on it, and it didn't feel as much of a waste of time as the others were, where I just went there for like one specific thing and then had to go back, which wasn't that fun. But here at least I go from place to place and actually search for things, and it's just generally, it feels more like a quest than just the puny feeling tasks that you do in the first two missions. And on top of that, you get some new weapons, which is clearly an important thing in RiU, so it's good that the quest is at least making you more comfortable with the idea by providing more of them for players to try out. And with that, we have officially gone through the entire storyline. Yes, that's it. As for my thoughts on Golden Wind, it's obviously a step up from Phantom Blood, and I think that a good amount of things sound and look cool on paper but isn't really executed that well. For example, the notoriety system and the lockpicking. Both of these have their flaws, some more than others. I'm looking at you, lockpicking. But on paper, they do actually sound cool. I mean, what other JoJo game lets you pick locks, or lets you fast travel via taxi, or gives you weapons like the guns, or actually makes you protect Popo's lighter, or lets you do some algebra? Point is, there is a lot of unique stuff in RiU, especially what's shown here in Golden Wind. But unfortunately, a lot of things just aren't executed ideally, leading to some frustrating moments for new players. Also, I want to highlight the little here and there details of RiU that some people might miss, like the dialogue UI looking really good, or the little camera angle shots we got with Giorno and Luca, or the little cutscene with Bucciarati, or the airplane that flies by every once in a while that was really cool. Like, I appreciate details like this as it really adds to the game's feel and environment. Now yes, I did sort of blast the game for a majority of the video, but I do genuinely think that with some shifts in execution, this game would stand out as being one of the most unique Roblox JoJo games that I've personally played. So if the people behind RiU just keep their heads high and keep trying to innovate and improve, they will go far. So, to conclude for the entire game and video itself, I've already mentioned most of what I wanted to say about the game. But as for the video, yes, I didn't cover everything about the game, like the combat, or SBR, or 77 rings, or any of the other side content, because I wanted to focus on the stuff that really all new players are going to go through before they even think of doing any side content. And this is because the storyline, which is supposed to be the initial hook, is extremely important, and I want to highlight where the game does things wrong to hopefully make them want to improve on it so new players actually want to stick around. I hope that in the future I can actually look at this game and tell my friends that this is a really fun game that is worth sticking around for. But until that day comes, I want to thank you all for getting to the end of this video, and I want to thank all the amazing people at Eyes of Diamond who helped with some of the script, or gave me editing advice, or was just supportive in general and were patient with me until the very end of me making this video. I also want to thank Ivory, Telly, Drifty, Liminality, Jake Ash, Mume, Ember, and Rose for no reason other than being cool members of the RIU community. And with that being said, bye bye! So, that's it for what I think. What do you think, man?
I don't know, man. I think you should get a job or something.